Hi guys, it's Rushmina and welcome back to the Peppy Podcast. Welcome. Today we have a guest called Dr. Auleep Ganguly who is going to be speaking to us about hedonism. Welcome, Auleep.
Hello, Rishmina. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. Had a nice, relaxing Saturday.
Mm-hmm. So, I wanted to talk to you about this topic because you're the only person I've actually discussed this with in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you understand how I feel about this issue.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I asked you to join me today.
Okay, I'm looking forward to. Thank you for having me on. I think I find psychology very fascinating. I think it helps us understand human behavior
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes why people do what they do. Even a superficial understanding of human psychology can often give you insights into people you are speaking to or working with or friends or family with. So I hope this helps your listeners understand a little bit about this tiny part about how the human brain works.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And my first question to you is what does hedonism mean to you exactly?
So it's very important to distinguish between the concept of hedonism and another concept we refer to as the hedonic treadmill. They're both interlinked, but hedonism isn't a recent concept. Have you heard of a philosophy called Stoicism?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Stoicism, just for those who have not heard of it, it's a concept from the ancient times where a lot of philosophers from back in the day, so people like Seneca or Epictetus, they used to think about life, write their thoughts about life. And it's made a recent comeback into modern day uh, pop culture because of books like Ryan Holiday's, I'm forgetting, Daily
The Daily
Stoic.
Stoic.
Daily Stoic, yeah, where you have a Stoic lesson once a day.
Mm.
So I do enjoy reading that book, but hedonism has its roots in Stoicism. So if you look at, I'm paraphrasing, but if you look at the textbook definition of hedonism, it basically refers to the pursuit of pleasure
Mm-hmm.
or the avoidance of pain.
Mm-hmm.
The theory or the philosophy of hedonism was mainly sort of pushed by this guy called Aristippus. Aristippus, difficult to say, who was a student or a contemporary of Seneca. So his philosophy in life was that people should live life and maximize life by the pursuit of pleasure. So to put that into context, you know how if you go to university, people will say, study hard so you can get a good job, and then get a
Mm-hmm.
good job and work hard 5 days a week, 9 to 5, so
Mm-hmm.
that by the time you're 65, maybe one day in the future, you will have enough money to retire and enjoy life. That's probably the common concept that people follow. Hedonism is kind of the opposite. So, what Aristippus would say would be go to university, have a blast, make friends, party, live like there's no tomorrow. Basically, he would have a lot in common with Drake, who would just say YOLO. And that's kind of hedonism in a nutshell, the pursuit of pleasure. That's the philosophy behind it.
Mm. I can tell we both watched the same video before this conversation
Okay.
because I was thinking the exact same thing. So I wanted to ask if you consider yourself a hedonist, and if so, how has that sort of impacted your life?
I think all human beings are hedonists. If when a kid sees ice cream and wants to eat that ice cream, that's hedonism in a microscopic level. When instead of going to the gym, you want to stay home and eat a 20-inch pizza by yourself, that's also hedonism. It's basically chasing pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
I think human brains are wired to chase pleasure, avoid pain.
Mm-hmm.
So would I consider myself a hedonist? Yes, in a way. But I think in most cases, the hedonist philosophy refers to the pursuit of pleasure over anything else. In a sense, what it refers to is that you are prioritizing your own dopamine hits or your own pleasure over anything else which may be important. So in that case, I don't consider myself a hedonist because I don't always believe in that. But the human brain is wired such that it's impossible to not pursue pleasure, at least at a microscopic level.
So how would you say this is different from the hedonic treadmill?
The hedonic treadmill is an interesting concept. So that the hedonic treadmill actually refers to the concept of human happiness coming back to the same level, no matter the external circumstances. So what that basically means is a person has a baseline level of happiness, a baseline level of satisfaction with their own lives, and external sources do not affect them long term. So I'm looking at my notes here. I don't have this off the top of my head, but there's a study by Brickman and Campbell published in 1971, and they followed three groups of people. Group one were lottery winners, those who won money via lottery. And group two were people who had a recent disability. And group three were a control group. So obviously group one represents someone who had a very positive life event, winning a lottery, getting a promotion, getting a lot of money, going for a holiday. Take whatever example you will. Group two represented a group of people who had a negative life event. So, a death of a loved one, loss of a job, a disability. And group three is a control group, someone who hasn't had either a positive or a negative life event. And they followed the happiness scales of these people. And what they found was that baseline happiness, that is, they measured the happiness of the individual prior to the event. So say before you won the lottery, they will do a questionnaire, measure happiness levels, and then this person wins the lottery. But they found that the baseline level of the happiness of the individual returns very quickly to what it was prior to the event. So in this case, someone who wins the lottery will be very happy for a bit, but their level of happiness, their level of satisfaction with life would return very quickly to pre-lottery levels. Or the opposite example, where someone's a moderately happy person, they'd have a disability, and maybe they'd fall into a bit of depression, a bit of anxiety for a short while, but then they would very quickly recover and come back to their previous moderate level of happiness.
Okay.
The reason it's called the hedonic treadmill is because it's like running in the same place. No matter what you do, no matter what you experience, no matter negative, positive events, your happiness level comes back to a standard baseline, which is individual from one person to the next. So that's the hedonic treadmill.
Right. And I think why I wanted to discuss this with you is because I remember having a conversation with you in the past when I was telling you how at every point your goal is, say, when you're at point A is to reach point B. And when you reach point B, your goal is to reach point C. And when you're at C, you have a new goal. And I don't know if this is similar to the treadmill, but if I were to give an example, when I was in school, the goal would be to get to university. When I was in university, which I still am, the goal is to just finish and start earning and get a job. And then when I'm doing that, I'm guessing my goal would change again. So what do you think about this mindset where whatever point you reach, you're thinking about where to go next in pursuit of your happiness?
I think there's always going to be an intrinsic human desire to do more, to achieve more, to be more. I think that's part of human nature. I don't think that's wrong. Where I think it may be a little bit dangerous is if we find ourselves constantly postponing our happiness. So I'll give you a story from my own history. Basically, before my first job, I'm not going to get into it very much, but I had a bit of trouble getting my first position as a dentist. And I remember very clearly thinking to myself that, right, my life's going to be fantastic when I get my first job. And then I got my first job. Then I was like, right, okay, my life's going to be fantastic when I get a pay bump and go on to my second job. And then I got my second job. And I was like, right, my life is going to be fantastic when I get married. And then I got married. And don't get me wrong, my wife's going to be listening to this. So my life is fantastic. And I love you. Don't get this wrong. But now that I'm married, I'm looking forward to, for example, buying a house, buying a car, buying 2 cars, 3 cars, 4 cars, going for a holiday, going for 2, 3, 4 holidays.
Mm.
So there's an intrinsic desire for more in human beings, but I think the
Mm.
dangerous part comes from postponing your happiness, because I think there's never going to be a point where people will reach where they'll say, right, now I can be happy. I don't think the mindset shift works that way. You can achieve 10 things, and
Mm.
all of a sudden, if you achieve thing number 11, that's not going to all of a sudden change your mindset.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
It does make
There's
sense.
yeah, there's a small difference between wanting to achieve more and postponing your happiness until more is achieved.
So, do you think that this could sort of play up in someone's career and make them keep pushing in a positive sense?
There's positive and negative to it. I think positivity will make, you can call it ambition, you can call it desire to grow, you can call it desire to contribute to society, you can call it, the desire to make something of yourself. That's positive.
Mm-hmm.
But in the negative sense as well, I think it can lead to a lot of perhaps anxiety, comparison, especially with social media these days. All you
Mm.
see, like for example, in dentistry, all I see are people posting brilliant pictures of their work and traveling and all these some smile transformations that they're doing, and that's not
Mm.
their day-to-day life, and I know that, but my human brain doesn't recognize that. So
Mm-hmm.
often comparison, comparing yourself to other people, comparing where you are to where someone else is,
Mm.
it can shine a negative light on yourself. I think it's very important to be careful with that. It's very difficult to not compare. It's a thief of joy, as the common saying goes.
Mm. So, if it is human nature to want to chase pleasure and we're all driven to keep looking for things that make us happy, would you know if there's anything that you found that helps you to sort of be content with where you're at in the present?
Yes, I mean, personally, I think finding things to be grateful about is a small exercise which can shine a light on what you have. There will
Mm-hmm.
always be people who have more, and always be people who have
Mm.
less.
Mm-hmm.
That the people recommend a gratefulness journal, writing
Mm-hmm.
down 3 things you're happy with, grateful about the past day, or just thinking it to yourself. I find that helps. Number one. I think number two, I find meditation, being in the present moment, helps. Exercise, when you're on a run at the beach, all you can think about is the next step, your breath. You're not thinking about 100 different things. Or when you're lifting a weight, you just focus on that particular moment.
Mm.
This is not groundbreaking stuff. We all know exercise is good for us. We all know practicing gratitude is good for us. We all know meditation is good for us. It's just a case of doing it. I'm guilty myself.
Mm.
Um, my wife and I got into a practice of trying to find 3 things we're grateful for every day. So they
Mm-hmm.
have to be new things past 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was working well, but we haven't done that for quite a while. So I think this is a timely reminder for us to get back to it. So to answer your question, first of all, I think gratitude helps. Secondly, there is a happiness study. I'm sure many people have heard of it, by Harvard. It's the longest
Mm.
running cohort study. So cohort study is something where they follow a group of people and just follow them up. And this has been going on from one generation to the next to the next. I think it's been running for about 80 or 90 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And they found that the key to happiness, the key to life satisfaction, the key to being content, has got nothing to do with money.
Mm.
It's got nothing to do with with career, fame, fortune, but it's actually got to do with your strong personal relationships. So things like who you're married to, what your marriage is like, whether you have friends and family, whether you have social circles, whether you have groups of people you're around, whether you have friends,
Mm.
all of that's very important. Um, and going back to the actual philosophy of hedonism, Aristippus actually was a big fan of friendship and bonds with your colleagues and your friends. And that's
Okay.
what he was saying, that, happiness comes from living the moment and building good relationships.
Mm.
So gratitude and building good relationships, doing things that are good for you, exercise, sunlight, eating well, all of these things help. But again, this isn't groundbreaking science. We all know it, it's common knowledge. It's just a case of doing it.
Mm. And is there anything you're grateful for today that you could share with us since you said you needed to start practicing again?
Right. I've got a fantastic dinner coming up. My
Okay.
wife's had a good day. I've had a very relaxing day outside of work. Haven't been working today. That's been good.
Mm-hmm.
called up an old friend, spoke to him. I'm speaking to you right now. Hopefully this
Mm.
reaches many listeners, and hopefully they get a little bit of a tidbit out of it. So yeah, there's plenty to be grateful for. Thank you for asking. How about you? What are you grateful
Um,
for today, Rishmina?
I am grateful for, I had a really nice conversation with my sister, and we were just talking about a lot of funny incidents from school, and it brought back a lot of memories, and it was just nice and nostalgic. So it was a nice conversation. I'm grateful for that.
Okay. Yeah. So I see it's a simple exercise, but you already feel happier for having thought of it, don't you?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
Um, I think it's important to, I think these days this is a very terrible thing to say because everyone says it all the time, but we're all very connected, but at the same time, all very disconnected.
Mm.
Um, I find, like, for example, when I have lunch with my colleagues, we have a tiny lunchroom and there's maybe 4 or 5 of us at the same time having lunch.
Mm-hmm.
But often I look around and everyone's got their heads buried in their phones.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're connected in the sense that they're speaking to people or looking at other people's updates, but at the same time, there are 4 other people in the room.
Yeah,
So we're also disconnected in many ways.
yeah.
So my thought, I've been trying to do this, is trying to put the phone away. Trying to put your phone away, living in the moment. It's not nothing wrong with accessing your phone once in a while, but I find myself being extremely distracted,
Mm,
like picking up my phone while watching a movie, where in fact I should try and just be present with the movie.
mm,
So that's something I'm working on as well. It's always a journey. I would say small steps help build up to bigger steps. So yeah, I would say just do the sensible things. Do what everyone says we should be doing,
mm.
and exercise, diet, take good care of the body, spend time with family, friends, call your mom, all of that stuff.
Thank you, Ollie.
Thank you for having me, Rishmina. Is there anything else you'd like to ask?
No, that's the end of my questions.
Fantastic.
Okay,
I hope your listeners enjoyed this little chat we had.
you can say bye to them.
Right, bye guys. If you need any help, you can find me on auleep@hotmail.com. So AULEEP at hotmail.com and email me there if you need.
Bye.
Bye bye.